Verbally Effective, your double Ina Esco here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 146 of the Verbally Effective podcast. You know, this podcast is all about your journey and being transparent and all of that great stuff. You get to know about all of the people that are either from Memphis or have ties to Memphis on this podcast. Before we get started, I do want to remind you all that the Ivy Multimedia merch shop is open. We got hoodies, we got t-shirts, we got Henry masks. Yes, we have partnered with the Henry brothers. Big shout outs to Patrick and Chase. Okay, my bad. Fresh and Chase for partnering on the mask. So make sure you head on over to ivymultimedia.com and get your merch. But we're about to get started for episode 146. I have with me today a gentleman that runs things around here in Tennessee. He is actually the state representative of District 98 for Tennessee, Mr. Antonio Parkinson. How are you, Mr. Parkinson?
I'm doing pretty good. Look, it looks like I made the cut.
You made the cut.
Number 146. I'm 146 down, but okay. I made the cut. Right. Wow.
Yes. Look, I had you on my list now. I'm getting to you now, but I'm so glad because it's a perfect time for us to have a chat right now. A lot of stuff is going on. A lot of people need to be informed about so much right now. I think we're in like a really critical moment in our lives in 2020. And you know, it's so unprecedented. It's so different. Like, what's really going on in 2020? How has How has 2020 been treating you? Let me ask you that.
Actually, 2020 has been pretty good for me. I'm honestly blessed. I'm so thankful. I'm serious. I'm very, very thankful for how the Lord has guided and actually prepared me before 2020. And because none of us seen this coming. Everybody had 2020 vision, and now we're all blind. From the 2020. 2020. I'm gonna be honest with you though. 2020 has been a mother.
Yeah.
It really has. And it has affected and including myself, every single person that I know personally in some form or fashion. I don't know one person that has not been, deeply affected in some manner, this year, whether it's because of COVID or whether it's because of all of the effects of COVID from loss of income or to, being lost, your health, and, family members or loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
Loss of a loved one. There's a lot of mental health issues out here right now that people are dealing with. And, this pandemic has completely, honestly, turned the world upside down. Not just, Memphis and Shelby County and, in our households, but the entire world has been turned upside down by this pandemic, and I'm just thankful that I hadn't lost a loved one that I know of, and due to the pandemic, and I'm glad my mother is still alive and well, and she's probably the most careful person I know. And,
well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. My brothers and they're still crazy as hell, but.
Right.
My two daughters, I'm thankful.
Yes, and I'm glad you raised the point of mental health because although I've been working home since March, it's just like you think you have more time now, but your mental capacity is kind of different right now because there's so much things that are draining and on your mind, even though you probably can't get out and go and do what you need. It's like mentally something is different right now. Like I feel the effects as well.
It is, and what's really interesting is I've been having this conversation with people about capacity, even whether those things are tangible or intangible.
Yeah.
Everything in this universe takes up space, and so you literally have to clear that space mentally. Because even, and I don't know if we're gonna go this deep with this, but with your podcast, but even, having, things occupy that space in your mind it blocks other things from being able to sit in that space. And that could be your blessings, that could be things that are here for you, and they can't manifest if you got other shit blocking.
That's true.
Your capacity. So you got to clear this stuff out. You literally have to clear that capacity.
Yeah, that's real. Me and my producer, we just had a heavy conversation about that, because you think you can do more, but it's kind of like taxing on your mind. Like, well, dang, I can't even get it done. But okay. So look, let's start at the beginning, Mr. Parkinson. What part of Memphis are you originally from?
So none.
Oh,
so right. So it's funny. I was born in Oakland, California. And,
you Cali, you West Coast. Okay.
Right. Even though I got the Memphis made on here, and I'll explain that. I was born in Oakland, California, and we left Oakland, California when I was about 2 years old, and we moved to LA. And so I grew up the first, I say 2/3 of my childhood in LA, and then my mother, who was from Port Arthur, Texas, or PAT for all those of you that understand home of the trio.
I'm from Beaumont, Texas, originally.
Hey. Really?
Yes, they Golden Triangle.
Yes.
Okay,
so you understand some boudin and good gumbo and all of
that.
Oh man, that's tripping me out. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So so my mother, who was from Port Arthur, Texas, we moved to Port Arthur, Texas, and that's where I ended up finishing high school at, and did the latter years of my childhood, and in and out of there, to be totally honest with you. Got kicked out of school there in Port Arthur, Texas. I tell you, Pimp C and Bun B, UGK, they came behind me.
Yeah.
They were about 4 years behind me, and I went to all of the high schools in Port Arthur, Texas, after being kicked out of the first one. And actually, speaking of being kicked out of the first high school, I was 14 years old. I went to jail. I was actually arrested on the last day of school in my 10th grade year. For
what happened?
Bringing a gun to school. I had intentions of shooting some kids that were bullying me, and they were threatening me, and I was 14, and was arrested and taken to jail on the last day of school, stripped of all my grades, and and had to make all of that stuff up, and my cousin says I was kicked out of 2 schools. I mean three high schools. I knew of 2. But I didn't remember the third one. But he said I was kicked out of Stephen F. Austin High School too, in Port Arthur also. But I didn't remember being kicked out of it. I don't know why I left. I don't remember why I left. But yeah. So they didn't know they were kicking the state representative out.
They didn't know back then, huh?
Right. But I tell people, even through all of that, everything there's purpose in everything. You don't understand it at the time that it's happening, and there's a lot going on at that time, and you don't understand at the time that it's happening, but I do. Now that I've gotten older and as an adult, I understand that I was being shaped for what I'm doing right now, because my constituency, the same people that I serve, a lot of them deal with some of the same issues, some of the same challenges that we were dealing with: homelessness, abusive households, drugs in the house. Hell, I grew up in the house where the dope was. And all of those things that come with that, and so it was a lot. It was a lot going on, and then that thing tends to spiral and it tends to cycle, and those children of those households, they tend to start looking for the out. How can I do it? How can I make it happen? How can I do it on my own, or this, that, and other? And I actually moved out of my mother's house, at the age of 15, but I was about a month away from turning 16, and so I moved out of my mother's house then, and it's been on from then since then. So I'm working at KFC. As a matter of fact, here's a little shameless plug. I'm working on my book, and it's called Cold Chicken, because I survived on whatever chicken we had left from KFC when I would close. That's what I ate for the next couple of days, me and my brother.
Yeah, that's going to be a good book, Mr. Parkinson. Now, before we started this podcast, you did send me a video of you addressing a class at their graduation, and you talked about your story, talking about you dealing with homelessness, with family members just telling you you're not going to amount to anything. Even your mother, you spoke about her choosing relationships over you or your siblings, your father not being present. Can you talk to some of those things that you dealt with growing up?
Yeah, when you're going through those things, and even the parents, I think the main thing out of all of that is to understand forgiveness. And and so because you got a choice as to whether or not you're going to harbor all of the ill will and the stuff that came with it. But if you understand that they are supposed to do what they were doing at that time to prep you for your purpose. And it took me a while to understand that, and I didn't get that at first. But one thing it did, when and just to touch on an example of what you were talking about, there was let me give you a little bit of background. So someone died for me to be sitting here talking to you, and let me explain it. Let me qualify that. Yeah, really. So in Port Arthur, Texas, I had just finished high school. Couldn't even march because I got kicked out of another school in Jacksonville, Texas. Went back to Port Arthur, Texas. The black school, Lincoln High School. Shout out to everybody that went to Lincoln and graduated from Lincoln High School. Invited me back in with open arms. Right, I had gotten kicked out of the white school. Right, they said it was because of my hair, but I think it was they had gotten the records from Thomas Jefferson High School that I had brought the school I brought the gun to. I think they got the records, and then they realized, like, no, we don't want that here. Right, and so they kicked me out, and it was 6 months left to graduation, and they said they communicated with Lincoln High School, which is what I knew to go to, because it's our folks, right? And they told them at Lincoln High School, hey, we don't care what you do with him. You can let him finish out the classes that he had here, and we'll mail him his diploma.
Wow.
And so I finished at Lincoln, but I couldn't march with the folks at Lincoln because I really wasn't a student of Lincoln. And the principals at Jacksonville High School, they literally mailed me my diploma. They mailed me my diploma. So I couldn't march with Jacksonville either because they had kicked me out. So when I speak at these graduations for these high schools, it's the most joyous opportunity afforded to me because I love to see them in that space, because I had to literally sit in the audience and watch my peers walk across the stage who I finished with. And they didn't understand. And then I'm a kid now. I remember I was 17. So nobody understood. They're like, man, did you fail? Did you not? What happened? You didn't finish all your credits? They said, no, I finished all my credits. But due to a technicality, I can't march with y'all across the stage.
Wow, what a feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. But I was sat in that audience, and I was, really happy for those that were marching across the stage, doing the dance and celebrating and this and that. And I was up in the audience. But look, so I originally enlisted in the Air Force. Right, and when I enlisted in the Air Force, and I would go to my Air Force recruiter's office every day and show up and help him recruit other people, and we were set to leave. I was set to leave to go to boot camp, and I showed up at the office of the recruiter one day, and there was another person there, and I was asking him where the recruiter was, and he was like, he got killed in a car accident last night. So he literally, and it was mind blowing, right? Okay. And keep in mind, I'm really homeless at this time, but I had an adult cousin that was allowing me to stay in his house, right? Myself and my brother Drag. Shout out to my brother Drag. My brother Drag is a year older than me, right? And so we had it timed so that that cousin, who hadn't seen his sisters and mother in forever, because this is how that happened. So we all lived in LA at the same time. The adult cousin, my mom, my stepfather. The adult cousin was actually my stepfather's cousin. When we moved to Port Arthur, Texas, the whole LA, California bunch moved to Port Arthur, Texas. So that was us, my mom's sister, my aunt, Charles Jr., who was the older cousin that I was talking about. And, everybody moved to Port Arthur. Well, then everybody left Port Arthur except for Charles and my aunt, right? And so anyway, so he allowed me to stay, and we had it timed. When I go to boot camp for the Air Force, he had his ticket. He was flying to Kansas to see his family, who he hadn't seen in years. And back then, there wasn't no internet. So this is 1986. So he had to drive to Houston to buy his ticket from the airport, and then which is about 35 minutes, and then drive back. So he couldn't take his ticket back or anything like that. So showed up, and the recruiter is dead. And so it blows my mind, first of all, because this is a person that I've grown and built a relationship with, right? And then after about 5 minutes of thinking about that, my heart is in my stomach. Then it really dropped in my stomach, because I'm like, wait a minute, what does this mean for me leaving? Because this thing is timed, right? And that guy, I took it as he was being a smart aleck, kind of. I guess because I was a little upset, but in a weird space. But he was like, well, this obviously puts everything on hold. The man is dead, right? And I'm like, and so it was one of the moments I can still feel how I felt right now when that happened. And so the whole time the Marine Corps recruiter was listening, because I had talked to both of them, but I had chose the Air Force. It was either Air Force or the Marine Corps. And I had to tell that cousin, that, what happened, that the recruiter died. If you hear noise in the background, that's my air conditioning man coming in.
That's so, okay.
yeah. So I had to tell my cousin, and my cousin was like, I understand it, but I can't take my ticket back. And, and I got to lock my house up, because I don't know where you're going to be. I don't know if you're going to be gone, or if you're going to be, everything was just pending.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the Marine Corps recruiter who had, was always trying to recruit me anyway, he was listening to the conversation that me and the new guy was having, the new Air Force recruiter was having. And after we finished, and I'm sitting there looking crazy, he was like, hey man, come here. He's down the hall, right? He's like, ear hustling. Like, come here. Right? And he tells me, he says, look, I can get you out of here in about a week and a half. I can get you out in a week and a half. He said, you just have to transfer all of your paperwork from the Air Force over to the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And we can get you out. He said, but the caveat is this, and he was transparent about it. He said, because I was set with what job I was going to have in the Air Force. They didn't have that job in the Marine Corps. No, not just that, but because we were doing it so fast, he said, we don't have the time to set your MOS or your specialty or your job or what you're going to do in the Marine Corps, because we're trying to make this thing happen as fast as possible. So you have to go in with an open contract, completely open contract. So I agreed to the deal, but I agreed to the deal only if he would fly my brother back to LA with his father also, to go back to his father's house, right? And so we cut the deal, and that recruiter was all excited about it, because this is the first time I heard this term. He had what they called an alpha candidate, right? And an alpha candidate is someone who scores high on the ASVAB score, right? On the ASVAB test, rather. And so apparently I was an alpha candidate. And we cut that deal. I went into Marine Corps boot camp. I did very well in Marine Corps boot camp, because I was scared that they would put me out. And I said, if they put me out of here, then I'm going to be homeless again. At this point, this is my third time being homeless before I went into the Marine Corps, right? And so because of that fear was driving me. I was crazy as hell, and I got promoted in boot camp. But even before that, they had came to me based on my ASVAB scores and said, we want to offer you officers candidate school, but we want a 12-year commitment from you. And at the time their timing was horrible, because I literally just got finished getting dogged out by the drill instructors, and I was dirty and sweaty. And then they called me before the commanding officer of Marine Corps Recruit Depot, and then he's high ranking, and I'm scared. When they said I had to go before the commanding officer, I'm like, damn, what did I do? Did I pop positive on my drug test? Was there some weed in my system? What did I do? Are they about to put me out? Oh Lord, don't let them put me out. Whoa, Lord. Right. Because all I knew was my drill instructors in boot camp. I didn't know, the boss of the whole base, right? I'm like, I don't even know the rank structure at this time. All I know is I'm scared. And then I'm looking at them, the drill instructors, they're looking like they scared. I'm like, oh, so wow. Their fear is transferring to my already fear. So I'm really scared. So now I'm standing at attention at the on the parade deck in San Diego. And this colonel, he says, relax, which was absolutely impossible. And he says, we want to offer you officers candidate school. And so we will pay, we need a 12-year commitment. And that 12-year commitment means you're going to leave here. If you say yes right now, it's done over here. We're going to fly you immediately to Quantico, Virginia. you're going to go through boot camp with the officers. And then once you come out of boot camp, we're going to send you to college for 4 years for free at zero cost. And then we will want a 4-year commitment from you in active duty Marine Corps, and then 4 more years of reserve or reserve duty. And you know, at the time, you know, 12 years after I'm getting dogged out, I'm thinking that this is what the Marine Corps is, right? I have to do this shit for 12 years, right?
Right.
but you know, of course, you know, once you come out of boot camp, it's a different animal, you know, and you know, you're more on the job specifications. So they said you can make that decision anytime throughout your Marine Corps career, right? And so I was like, dang, okay. It was a lot for me at that moment, you know, and you know, and then further on, and you know, I became squad leader in the Marine Corps boot camp, and you know, a couple of days before they released us, before we were finished with boot camp, they gave us our orders, and they were telling us what we were going to do. Now, remember, I came in with an open contract, so I had no idea. So as they're naming, they're going down this list. I'm Parkinson, so they're going alphabetically in alphabetical order. So I'm towards the end of the 90 people that were in the platoon. Mm-hmm. And they going through all these names from A to Z, and everything is 03 this, 03 11, 03 such and such, 03 that. What that means, that's infantry. Anything with the 03 code is infantry. So, you know, there's, you know, people that's going to be on the front line, either driving tanks, just riflemen, this, that, and other basic, you know, people to fight the wars, right? And they're going through 03. Most of them are 03, most of them are 03. And I'm like, okay, so shit, I guess I'm going to be 03 too. But when they got to mine, they said, I think it was 7269 or 7369 or something like that. And it was so odd, right? And everybody looking around, and even drill instructors looking around. Now I'm getting nervous again. In the moments again, like what the heck is going on here, right? So nobody knows what the code is. So the drill instructors, you know, one of them goes in there into their little hut inside of our barracks, and he gets the MOS code book, and he goes down the list. I'm seeing him go down the list, turning pages, book about this big, turning pages, going down the code book, turning pages. He looks at it, then he whispers to one of the other drill instructors, and you know, he says, "Man, you ain't gonna believe this shit."
What is it?
Right? He looks at it. He shows it to him. He's like, oh. You know, they curse, right? He's like, oh. Oh. Then they look at me, and now I'm really getting nervous. Like,
what was it?
Look, what? And then they say, this MF is going to air traffic control school.
Okay.
In Millington, Tennessee.
Wow.
In Memphis.
That's how you got here.
That's how I got to Memphis. And I was blown away, never saw it coming, never knew, never understood it. And I got to Memphis, you know, I only thing I heard about Memphis was Ku Klux Klan, 1960s and
right.
I didn't even know it was a city. I didn't even know there was a city, right? And I got here, and you know, I trained. I went through air traffic control school, and I went through crash fire and rescue school, and that's how I became a firefighter, and that's how I got to Memphis. That's how I'm talking to you, because that Air Force recruiter died in the car accident, and I wouldn't be the state representative because I'd have been somewhere else totally different.
Isn't that something?
Had he not passed away.
That's amazing.
Totally out of my control. I had zero control at that time.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but God had me though.
My entire family, on my dad's side, they're military. They're mainly Army, and I got here because my dad received orders to go to Millington, so I got here the same way as you.
That's crazy.
I know. So that was like a big transition because, like you said, you know, when they said Millington or Tennessee, Memphis, you know, that area, you like, dang, Ku Klux Klan, like what's going on in Millington? All I could think about was Martin Luther King got killed in Memphis. Like, I don't want to go to that, but but we here, and now you know, blazing trails in our specific industries. And you know, I know that you said Marine Corps, and from what I hear, Marine Corps is like the toughest of the tough of the military. Of the military branches. So you didn't go to officer school? Did you make that decision?
You know, I didn't make the decision to do it. I did my 4 years and you know, enlisted, and you know, I just didn't feel like the Marine Corps was enough money for me. Okay. You know, and it was cool, and I did well. You know, I did very well. came out in E4, so I was right on target with what I was supposed to. And if I'd have stayed, I'd have became a sergeant. And I lived in Japan for a year. It was I'm gonna tell you something. Marine Corps. I thank God for the Marine Corps for me, because it was the best setting that I could have asked for. For what I come from, and it literally reset me. And and I tell people, Marine Corps boot camp, they teach you, reteach you, they break you down and reteach you everything. I'm talking about even to the point of how to breathe. They really teach you everything, and I thank God for them. And there's a specific one of my drill instructors. All of my drill instructors were crazy as hell, but great, but crazy as hell, and exactly what I needed. And there was one drill instructor in there, Staff Sergeant Williams at the time. He's the one that gave me the nickname Touche. A lot of people think that the nickname comes from the music business, but it really came from that drill instructor, because at the time I was real skinny at the time, and maybe about 150 pounds maybe. And he said I look like Touche the Turtle. Of course, I didn't have any hair on my head. And so for you older listeners and viewers, if you remember that cartoon, Touche the Turtle was the cartoon that was like the Three Musketeer hat on and had the crooked sword. And so I guess at the time I looked like Touche the Turtle at the time. And hell, I might still look like it, right?
Wow.
So
that's where you get that nickname.
That's where that nickname came from. And I'm gonna tell you too, I got to send a shout out to one of my closest friends who we actually met in boot camp. We're both from LA, but we met in boot camp. Antonio Waters, and he got promoted out of boot camp too, and because he had been homeless too, and we were so crazy that and by the time we started getting a little bit closer to the end of boot camp, we had started going up to the drill instructors, asking them to punish us, because we wanted it now. We're in shape and this, that, and other.
Now ready.
It wasn't anything they could do to harm us. We wasn't scared no more. And all this. And it got to the point where the drill instructors they was like, man, get y'all crazy asses out of my face.
Right.
Because nobody asked them to what we call thrash. Nobody asked the drill instructors to thrash them. In fact, everybody's trying to avoid that. Right. We come running up there, standing at attention. Sir, we got a question, sir. Fuck you on. Sir, can you thrash us? Get y'all crazy asses out of my face. No, get away from me, right?
Yeah,
so yeah, we were just straight up, to the wall with it, because we both, and it's so funny, after we talked about boot camp, whenever we talk about it, we talk about we had nothing to lose. We had everything to lose. Let me rephrase that. We had everything to lose if we failed. So it makes you look crazy when you're backed up in that corner, and make you come out fighting.
Right. This is your journey. I mean, you had in your mind, I'm not being homeless no more, so I got to do this. So, you succeeded. You are here today. And I mean, now you a state representative, but I know it was a lot going on between being in that air traffic control setting to becoming a state representative. Now, I heard you mention the music business. Now, I don't know if that's the next chapter, but what happened after you moved to Millington? What was going on when you hit Millington, Tennessee, got to Tennessee, adapting to your new role? What happened next for you, Mr. Parkinson?
Man, start meeting these Memphis girls. Back in the day, right. Back in the day, it's so funny, because back in the day, the E Club on the base was popping, right? But it would be more girls from Memphis, from the city, in the E Club than it would be girls from the base.
Right.
So Sundays.
They trying to get them a soldier, huh?
Right. Sundays, and they was getting them Sundays and Tuesdays. So it's funny. I had my first little girlfriend, and she would drive up there, and she would take me back to the city, and then I realized, coming into the city, oh, it's a whole city. It's a whole city here, and Southland Mall and Mall of Memphis and Raleigh Springs Mall at the time, and Raleigh Springs Mall was the corny mall, right? That's it was the white folks and black sailors, folks still in their uniforms and stuff. I didn't want to go to that one. I wanted to go to the Mall of Memphis, Southland Mall.
I miss the Mall of Memphis.
Yeah, man.
I miss the Mall of Memphis.
Overton Park back in the day was crazy. It was a different park back then. And so that all of that stuff was, I learned to love Memphis, and I learned to love Memphis, and what I saw in Memphis, honestly, back in 1986, in 87 when I was here. I left in early 87. What I saw in Memphis, I said, it's a city, but it's still virgin. You know, it was so much that could be done. This wasn't in LA or in Oakland or San Francisco or, you know, or Houston, you know, where everything, they're already, you almost couldn't come up with anything new in the markets, right? And so that's what I saw in Memphis. I said, man, there's a great opportunity here, you know, in the music business, a great opportunity in innovation, a great opportunity if you're just a little bit progressive. And so, you know, I left here, left Memphis, lived in the Carolinas for a couple of years, and then lived in Japan for a year. And then I chose to come back here to stay, you know, after I got out of the Marine Corps.
Why did you choose to come back to live?
You know, because it was virgin. Because it was virgin, there was a lot of opportunity here. And I'm gonna tell you, you know, I had job offers in Bermuda. I had a job offer in Oakland. I was really giving that some real consideration, thinking about going back to Oakland. And then I had a job offer here, you know, on the base fire department, you know, doing crash fire and rescue work, you know, and so I took that. Plus, you know, that factor in the fact that I didn't have a lot of money to move too. That helped with the decision too. So yeah, I stayed, and but I always thought, I said, there's an opportunity here because it's still untapped. Seriously, it's a whole city now,
I know.
But it's still untapped.
It's still a lot untapped. You hear me?
Still, yeah. But you know, I always tell people, you know, anytime I have my friends that come in from out of the market, they come in from, you know, New York, Philadelphia, LA, wherever, people fall in love with Memphis. There's an allure here, a draw. Memphis is very charismatic. And people fall in love with it, with the city, and you know, and tend to want to be here. And I was one of those people too. And I still love the city.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So that was your welcome to Memphis, and why you decided to stay here in, you know, the city that got your mains.
Right. Yeah, you know, and that's the thing about Memphis though. Is so innovative, man. And let me tell this story. I got to tell this story. So remember, so I'm in the Marine Corps right now. I done moved to the Carolinas, right? So this is 1987, between 87 and 89. And so I was coming back and forth to Memphis, right? Coming back and forth to Memphis because I had a girlfriend here, right? And so I came back to Memphis. I think I had been gone for a few months. Came back to Memphis. I was driving 13 hours in a little Mustang from the coast into Memphis. Came back to Memphis. Went to doggone Club No Name, right? Club No Name, so Ray the J and Spanish Fly.
Yeah.
And so I'm in No Name, right? Now I'm in No Name. I'm the odd person in No Name because I had military haircut and a military coat on, right? And everybody else in there had curls and gold teeth, right? and so I go in there and I see them and they doing this thing, right? This thing where they walking around in a circle, right?
Yeah.
Walking around in a circle. And I'm like, I'm serious. I'm giving you the honest to God truth. Watch this. I'm looking at this. I'm standing up there. I'm the odd person now. I was really going for the teeny weeny bikini contest, right? But they wasn't doing that no more. So the loop music was over, right? This is now has shifted into something else. And I'm watching them walk around in this circle, and I'm like, man, what the fuck is this? This looks like a witchcraft ritual or something. They're walking around. I'm serious. This is what's going through my head. I'm like, what in the crazy ass shit is this?
It was gangster walking.
It was gangster walking. It was the most innovative thing I had ever seen in my life. And I went back to North Carolina, and I tried to explain it to them. I could not explain it.
You had to show it to them.
But nobody got it. I went to Texas for my family reunion. I tried to explain it to them. Nobody understood what the hell I was talking about. I said, you gotta see this. There are things about Memphis that you can't even capture on film properly unless you just literally in the moment that is happening.
That's
such
true.
as Rayford's back in the day. Went to Rayford's for the first time, and the smoke was down to here, down to the floor. Everybody had a blunt and a joint, and all of the women had a 40 ounce. And Rayford had on this cape and he had on his headband, and he was playing music out the crates that I hadn't heard since the 70s. And I was like, man, and he's playing it on vinyl, right? And I'm like, you can't duplicate this.
Right.
You can't duplicate this energy or this atmosphere. And it's hard. You can't, when you try to describe it to people, it's such an innovative culture and such a different culture in Memphis. And when you try to explain it to people, all you can do is say, you gotta come. You gotta come and see it for yourself.
That's true.
Because it's totally different. And what was good for me was I'm an outsider, right? And you know, being an outsider, I think I appreciate it more than the people that have been here all their lives, right? You know, and you know, and I explain it with my excitement and energy, and everybody else, oh yeah, this is Rayford's, and you know, this
right, they used to.
It's just Studio G, and you know, and Creativeville and Club Memphis, and man, I'm like, y'all don't understand, man. So I watched, you know, the Al Capones and the 8 Balls and MJGs and the DJ Squeakies and all of these, and Spanish Fly. I sat Spanish Fly down in my living room for 3 hours and explained to him why he needed to write his book right now before he leaves this earth, because it was them breaking Trigger Man, the Trigger Man song. They broke it in No Name, that caused men to stop dancing with women in the club because it slowed everything down. And it covered the whole South, and it changed the game in the music business. I mean, completely changed the game in the music business, because I remember the Triggermans are going into my music business part now. I remember I was in 1986, I was on the bass, and I never forget, I bought this compilation album because Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince was on it. And it was I had the cassette. But on the B side, the last song on the B side of this compilation album was Trigger Man. They were from New York. Right, but Fly and them broke the song. The song came out in '85, but Fly and them broke the song in '88 or '87. Triggerman didn't get on for years after the song was out, and they got on because of Memphis, because of Spanish Fly, Raider J, and then Squeaky and them start sampling it. They started doing tracks. They started rapping to it. Then New Orleans took it and ran with it, you know, with all the bounce music. And then, you know, and then everything, all of the music started slowing down. The tempo started slowing down. We went from the loop tempos to the Triggerman tempos to where we are now. But it was started with the innovation here.
Right. That's true. I mean, music is so deeply rooted in Memphis. So tell me about your involvement in the music business.
So here I come. You know, I did my first demo right there at Lamar in 240 in the Banks building at the top of it, right? And I had this idea. It's so funny, you know, because I was trying to rap at the time, right?
You trying to be a rapper?
I was trying to rap. I really wanted to do my demo in Japan, but I couldn't get them to understand what I wanted, right?
Okay.
So I done left Japan. I'm now in Memphis, and I want to do this demo, and I had this idea. And so my first encounter was with a dude, and he took some money from me. He got me. Right, you know how that. Hey, look, you learn from the music business, and then I got with this other cat who used to play on some stack stuff and stuff like that. You know, he could play, you know, kind of generally what I wanted, but I still couldn't get what I wanted. But I did my first demo up there, and then I got with Reggie Boylan, who had OTS Records at the time, and he had just signed. He had Gangsta Pat at the time.
Yeah,
and he had just signed 8 Ball and MJG. And you know, and so I was in there, and you know, it's so funny because I'm giving you a little music history of Memphis. I was in there. We were all on park at OTS when Pretty Tony was writing his song "Get Buck."
What?
Remember that? Yeah, I remember he writing it on a piece of paper. I was looking at it, standing there, and one of the producers, Slice T, and a dude named Mac Rod, we call him Mac Rod. They were in there, and Pretty Tony kept on calling his name in the rap. You know, it wasn't. You know, it was. He kept on calling the name. I remember Slice T saying, "Man, don't call your name so much," right? And but then he put that little song out, "Get Buck." Remember that? I don't know if you remember that or not.
I remember that.
He put that little song out on a dirty tape, and it went. Wow! It was lit. It caught fire. And Hammer, MC Hammer, remember that? He picked up the Get Buck.
Get Buck,
Get right. But yeah, and so it spread you know, again, nationally. And that came from Pretty Tony and this little dirty cassette, you know, with him rapping on it. And he wasn't no great rapper, but he used to always be at the club and No Name in his green Mercedes Benz, right?
Right.
You know, old school with the windshield wipers on the headlights, right? But you know, yeah. And so anyway, I was trying to do my demo, and you know, I ended up, because you know they couldn't deliver what I wanted. You know, I started piecing together recording studios, and then, you know, eventually I got in. We built enough of a studio to where, you know, I never forget, I recorded that same track that I wanted from my first demo. Recorded that track in my daughter's bedroom, and I wasn't rapping no more. I was now doing tracks now, because I can get what I hear now.
You a producer.
Right, so I'm producing now, and I was producing my brother and a couple other artists, and I did that. We did that song. It's called Yayo, and yeah, and we got a deal with RCA Records.
Wow.
So I'm doing that song, and to the point that we recorded this song and mixed this song in my daughter's bedroom. They didn't even want to mess with the mix. They wanted it just as it was mixed. And so, yeah, and we shot video to it in LA, and it was a real record deal. And I don't know if you remember Jay Jesse Smith, but Jay used to do all of the Rough Rider videos back then, the E videos. He was the person. He directed and shot our video also. And so we were on the deal with RCA Records until at the time in the early 2000s or late 90s, and RCA Records decided they didn't want to be in black music again at that time.
Wow.
And so we were released. But here's the artists. We were released. Tyrese was released. Tyrese was the MTV VJ at the time. SWV was out. Blackstreet was out. And then you had a bunch of them that were on Loud Records that was part of RCA, Wu-Tang, and 3-6 Mafia, and all of them were out, and the only ones that they kept was NSYNC and Christina Aguilera, but they kept the Jive label. They kept the Jive label, which had R. Kelly and UGK, right? And so you know, and it was a great experience. But what it taught me, and you know, I'm never bitter at a loss, and you know, when you lose, to me it's a teaching experience. And what we started doing from there was producing, pressing, and selling our own CDs and getting all of our money. And so that's what we did from that moment on. And and then of course politics took over. And so but I'm still in music. We're literally building a new studio right now, and I'm still doing tracks and looking for, you know, good R&B artists, female R&B artists to do some production on.
All right. Okay. Well, it sounds like you have a good ear for music. So you gotta keep me informed, because you know I have a R&B show on WYXR at Crosstown. It's called Musically Effective, and I'll do straight R&B from old to new. So keep me posted.
Yeah, I love it. And in that, let me just tell you this before we move on. In that space also, and so I'm gonna give you the bridge of how we got into politics. In that space of being in the music business, I was appointed to the Memphis and Shelby County Music Commission by Mayor Harrington, and within, I think, about 2 years or so, then I became the chair of the Music Commission. And then there was a space where I ran the Music Commission. And so I don't know if you know Johnny Walker. I recruited and hired Johnny Walker and brought her to the city.
Okay.
You know, and there was a lot of political tension where there was some people that didn't want her to be the head of the Music Commission. And so that was my first, you know, introduction into politics.
Wow.
And then from there, you know, I was serving on several boards, you know, Music Commission, Rock and Soul, and some others, and I eventually, you know, got out of them boards and started focusing all my energy in my area that I live. And that's how, because I had to navigate the waters of city and county government, city and county mayor's office, to make sure that they kept the funding coming to the Music Commission at the time. So, you know, talking to them and learning and meeting these, you know, politicians, and you know, and fighting for support and building relationships. And so it made me see, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is where the power is.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where the power is. This is where the decisions are being made by those people that are the rule makers. And so, you know, the rule makers, you know, hold the power to, you know, how things are supposed to go and things are supposed to lay out. And so,
wow, that's interesting how you got into politics. Now, you are a state representative for Tennessee District 98, and you've been in this role about 11 years now, right?
yeah, it'll be 11 years in January.
Was that your first role in a political position or no?
So no, so it's funny, it's interesting because when I was chairing the Music Commission, I was about to run for city council. And there were some things that were going on in Memphis music business where the business community wanted to take over, basically commandeer the entire music industry under their guidance, so to speak. But at the time, when I was the chair of the Music Commission, I didn't agree with that because I knew who built the music industry in Memphis, right? And it was really almost exclusive of the people that actually built the industry. And so, and I'm trying to say this in a nice way. So you had a group of white folks that wanted to commandeer the industry because they seen the money of hustle and flow, and the money of the 360 Mafia and all these folks were generating, and they wanted to try to pull it in and have get some control over it. And I just didn't agree with it fundamentally, and part of that meant that they didn't want Johnny Walker to head this up. They wanted this white guy to head it up, Dean Dale, who used to run Comcast at the time. Wow. And my compromise was, let's let them both do it. Let Dean go get the checks, since he can get the checks for y'all. And Johnny Walker has the music industry know-how. She had been working for Russell Simmons and Def Jam and all of this stuff. Let them both, let it be a two-headed monster, and we can kill it. They didn't want that. They wanted their person. And so when I disagreed with that, they started funding my opponent to the hilt, to the tune of, I think it was hundreds of thousands of dollars for that city council race, and I didn't win that race, but a year and a half later, I was elected to the state, which is actually higher. And so, like I said, I'm never bitter at losses because there's purpose in everything. You don't know why you're losing. You don't know why it's happening, but I wasn't supposed to be there. I was supposed to be a state representative whose power is equal to that of the governor of the state of Tennessee, not city council.
Right. Baby, you just skipped on up. You skipped right on up. You got where you needed to be. And you know what? There may be people that don't know what a state representative does for Tennessee. Can you kind of let us know at a high level, Mr. Parkinson, exactly what you do, the kind of decisions that you make, the things that you see on a day-to-day basis? Talk to us about that.
Right, I'm glad you asked that because I want people to understand, and no matter where you are listening to this podcast, your state elections are the most important. I'm going to tell you, even more important than that of the presidential election. But vote in every election. Vote in every election. I don't care if it's your school board or if you're PTA or if it's your presidential or your state or your city council, county commission, the county mayor, whatever. Vote in all of them. But let me tell you why your state elections are important. And before I get to the duties of what we do, your state elections are important because when you pay your taxes, when you pay your income taxes, they go to the federal government. The federal government then, or Washington, D.C., the federal government then sends the money back to the state for distribution, whether it's to your neighborhoods or your schools or whatever, right? Then secondly, when you pay your sales tax, you buy a bag of chips, that money is going to the state, right? And that pile of money, we decide where that money goes, whether it's to your schools, to your neighborhoods, or to your city for distribution to your neighborhoods. It's like a big pyramid, right? And so that's the key, so that's when you hear somebody using a buzzword, allocating resources, we're talking about money. So if you're this is the litmus test. Does your neighborhood look like the affluent neighborhoods in your community? Does your child's school, does their building look like the building in the white folks area? So this is what allocation of resources means. And those resources need to be allocated as equally as possible. And so that's why it's so vitally important for you to vote in those state elections so you can get the people in place to allocate those resources. And we can't do it if we are outnumbered in the Capitol. So if we're outnumbered, you know, and it's more Republicans than it is Democrats or whatever your choice is, then we can't win, because it's a representative form of government. It's about who has the numbers. Now, let me tell you what our job is. We got two constitutional duties. One is to pass laws. The other one is to pass the budget for the state. That's our constitutional duties. That's it. Now, but there's there's two unspoken duties that I think are the most important. One is constituency services, make sure that you're taking care of the people that's in your district, and to educate people in regards to these policies that are coming down the line. Because what happens is all of this stuff is put in legal jargon. Hell, I don't even be understanding what this stuff is saying, and a lot of times, so I get the legal folks to meet me in my office so we can break all of these, every clause down of these laws that are being passed. Now, think about this. I'm a rule maker. I'm a lawmaker. The governor is not a lawmaker. Neither is the president. It's the legislators that make the rules. He who makes the rules is he or she who is in charge. Think about it. If you're in a contest and you're in a contest against the person that makes the rules for the contest.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important for you to vote in your state elections, for your state representatives and your state senators. It's vitally important, because you need those numbers, because we make the laws. Let me tell you something. If you and I will give you $100 right now. Yeah, I cash it to you if you can tell me one thing that is not ruled by law. Just one. You ain't got enough time, because every single thing that you do from the minute you put your feet on the floor, whether it's on carpet or hardwood, is ruled by law. Whether it's the material or how it's made, manufactured, it's ruled by law. The air you breathe is ruled by a law. We're the lawmakers. How much time you get for a crime is ruled by a law. When your children start school, how much money is going to go into your school district? Ruled by a law. We're the lawmakers. Think about how much power that is.
Yes, and you must have been doing a great job to be in this role for over 11 years, Mr. Parkinson. And I know that you've probably made countless rules. What have been some of like the top 3 rules that you're most proud of for Tennessee?
So one, I don't know if you remember the story about, I always bring her up. She's the most courageous woman that I've ever met. Her name is Kimberly Morton. Kimberly Morton went through a brutal rape, and the person almost killed her. You know, it was a person that she knew. You know, he came down, and you know, he was normal. It was normal for him to come in her apartment. He knew her family and everything. This happened in Memphis in 2-lane apartments, and he raped her and wrapped cord around her, phone cord around her neck, tried to kill her. She literally passed out. And he was trying to get rid of the DNA evidence, so he started pouring bleach on all of the wounds and stuff on her. And you remember that? And the burns from the wounds really activated her, made her brain activity kick back in, and it woke her up. The burns from the bleach, rather, I'm sorry. And she woke up, she had this phone cord around her neck, had this knife sticking out of her side, and she managed to talk him into, letting her live, and she said she wasn't gonna tell anybody, and she managed to get outside of her apartment, and she's still living today. But she went on, he went to prison, and he got out early for good behavior. And so my very first big law that I passed was, we call it Kimberly's Law, and it made it so that there were no loopholes for those that are convicted of aggravated rape to get out on good behavior. And so that was one of the first laws. I was the only Democrat elected that year. That's my first year being elected, and they said you'll never ever get that passed because it had $1 million price tag. But when we had Kimberly in there before those committees, and everybody's in there crying, hearing her story, and we got that law passed, and they said it never in a million years with this freshman Democrat, be able to get this law passed. So we're off to a good start.
Wow.
Kimberly's Law, that one, Neighborhood Protection Act. Neighborhood Protection Act allows you to kick repeat criminals out of your neighborhood. A lot of people don't know you can do that in Tennessee. So you got somebody that lives, I don't care if they're even a homeowner, if they bought a house in your neighborhood and they victimizing your neighborhood, and they got convicted of it 3 times, or victimizing your neighborhood 3 times, you can actually kick them out of your neighborhood. Yeah, as you know, but you have to be a neighborhood association or a neighborhood watch group. You have to be formally organized. And the reason why we did that, there's actually a method to my madness. The reason why we did that is because we didn't want people to be able to retaliate on one person if they didn't like what happened. So it became the group kicking the person out, not the, you know, an individual. And so that, and then the last one, just this last one, but there's more. But this last one, well, one of the last two I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about one that didn't pass, but this last one, we broke up the cosmetology industry in Tennessee, and we made it so that you don't have to go out and get a $15,000-$20,000 loan to go to cosmetology school in Tennessee if you want to do natural hair, or if you want to do aesthetics, or if you want to do manicuring. So we made it so that you can open up specialty schools specifically for those genres of the cosmetology industry. And so we passed it. So funny because when I passed that law, we passed it unanimously in the House, unanimously in the Senate, and signed it. We did one of those picture signings of the law with Governor Haslam, and you know, on camera and all of this stuff, right? And then there were about 60 white cosmetology school owners across the state of Tennessee. They found out about it, but they found out about it a little bit too late because I had already passed it, and they were up in arms because, you know, they had been controlling the cosmetology industry for all of these years, right? But you had people, what was happening was you had these young men and women that were going into cosmetology school and being told to go out and get you a $20,000 loan, use, you know, $3,000, $4,000 so you can get you a car, this, that, and other, mess it off, right, basically. But give us the other $15,000 to $17,000. That's gonna pay for your school, whether you graduate or not, right? Now you got these student loans, but you only want to go for natural hair. Right. The natural hair portion of it was only 300 hours. You're going to a 1,500 hour program, and you only want to do natural hair, right? And then the other thing was they were coming out of there, sometimes taking the test, sometimes not passing, sometimes getting you know, a job at a salon, sometimes not, and they were still stuck with these loans. And so when we passed that, I also passed with it the apprenticeship program. So which means that whether you go to full cos or go to natural hair school for 300 hours, or go to esthetician school, or go to manicuring school, you can go to school half the time and pass your written, and then go work in a salon the other half. You get your practical and make money. Okay. And it would allow the salon owners or the nail shop owners to vet the students for a possible permanent position. And so, you know, I wanted them to be able to get money so they can pay for their school, you know, while they're going to school. Plus, from a marketing standpoint, you can build your clientele while you're in school. Okay. So that's one of my proudest pieces of legislation, you know, that bill. But I'm the only person in the history, this is the last one to talk about, I'm the only person in the history of the state of Tennessee to get a marijuana bill to the House floor. What? Yeah, right. Wait, well, that lit you up, right? That lit you up. Yeah. You did there. Right. So I got this bill to the House floor, and what it did was it removed the felony from small amounts of marijuana, because under Tennessee law now, if you have anything over a half ounce of marijuana, up to 10 pounds of marijuana, up to 10 bricks, right? It's the same penalty. So if you got a half an ounce in your pocket, and then you have a blunt in your ashtray, that's a little bit more than a half ounce. So you face the same penalty that somebody would if they had 10 bricks sitting in their car, right? And that's crazy. And now it's legal in so many states. Oh my God. Right. And not just that, but that penalty is the same penalty that somebody would face if they had killed somebody in the state of Tennessee. Why was that? Why was that so heavy? Like, why? It's still that heavy because I got the bill to the House floor, but you got to have 50 votes for it to pass, and I had 44 votes, but it didn't fail. It was just kind of in the middle, so it didn't fail, but it didn't pass either, right? And so you know, we almost had it, here's my reasoning for that, right? For working for, and I'm gonna run that bill again this year coming up.
But why isn't it passing though? Like, why are they voting against that? Is it because they want to keep the black folks in jail?
Well, that could be part of the reason, but I think you got a handful of people, at the state capitol that's still holding on to them old beliefs. It's the gateway drug, this, that, and other, that old dated shit. And so what they do is they get the police association, not police association, but the police chiefs association, the sheriff's associations, and all of these people to come out and lobby against it. And so when they get up there, they bring a bag of marijuana. It's so funny. They brought a bag of marijuana joints, and they said, "This is how many joints you can get out of an ounce of weed." They probably lying, right? And then I told them, I said, "Man, who in the hell smokes joints?"
Right.
I said, "No, nobody even smokes joints. Everybody smokes blunts now. Y'all shit is dated. So but here was my thing. My thing is this. There are people that want access to marijuana for medicinal purposes,
right.
even for their babies. You got babies that are suffering from seizures and these diseases and you got elderly people, you got military people coming out with PTSD and this, that, and other, so on and so forth. And we're making felons out of them. We're making felons out of somebody's grandmother or a mother that's trying to use marijuana in a recipe so that her baby stays calm, so that the seizures go away, and these things are proven. And you still have people that are holding on to that old adage. We're not going to do that in the state of Tennessee. And what's sad about that is this: we're being surrounded by the states around us that are passing legislation that either legalize it from a medicinal standpoint or recreational standpoint. And, more than half it's over 30 some states. I mean, Mississippi, for Christ's sake, who the hell wants to be behind Mississippi?
Y'all behind
anything. In anything.
Look, we just voted on that because I live in
right.
County. We just voted on that and it passed to my
right. And it's shameful.
surprise.
It's shameful that we trail Mississippi in any damn thing. Yeah. And it's so funny. One of the jokes that I make, and they can't stand it when I make a joke in there. I'm like, yeah, y'all want to build this wall? Y'all, you Trump supporters, y'all want to build this wall? I say, let's build the damn wall, but let's build it on State Line Road, so that this folks.
Okay.
Right.
That's amazing. Like how backwards people can be about decisions that affect so many people, and it's been going on for so long. So I know that you've seen so much during your time as a state representative, and like you said, it comes with a lot of power, it comes with a lot of influence, and I know people are probably blowing you up about some of the things that they want to see change, some of the things that they want done. How do you balance I guess the type of decisions that you want to go for and that the ones that you're going to go for later? How do you balance that?
I prioritize. I prioritize that training that I had and growing up and being homeless and seeing all the crazy stuff. That again, I always go back to this purpose and everything. It said, we survive these things for a reason, right? And people, you don't understand it, but when you grasp that idea that you survived it for a reason, to help someone, to bless someone, to make something better, you understand the full purpose in that. And so those things become the priority. Education is a priority for me. Education, making sure that we have quality schools, making sure that we have the resources that are needed in our school, making sure that these folks are not exploiting the Black and brown children for a profit under the auspices of education.
Right.
I was one of the biggest, probably the face of the depth of the Achievement School District, which is a state-run school district, and that was nothing but making black and brown kids commodities again and putting a price on their head. You know, all of these out of town charters that were coming in, becoming state-run achievement school districts that were failing our children. We're getting $10,500 per head. And when I uncovered that, I understood their real motivation, because this is, and I told them, y'all have created the new slave trade because you have made the black and brown children a new commodity. And there's a land rush or a head rush going to go ahead and take over these schools in Memphis, because do the math. If you got 1,000 kids in the school and you're getting $10,500 per head, that's $1.5 million every year. Do the math. Oh, they hated it when I told them it's the new slave trade. Oh my God, you think I set somebody's grandmother on fire?
Okay.
How dare you? Yes, dare I? Yeah, because that's what it is. Show me the lie.
Right.
Show me the lie. Because that's what you got. That's what y'all are doing. And so, you know, education, criminal justice reform, you know, and making sure that you know that we have, you know, that we get the resources. You know, we're taxpayers. You know, black people are taxpayers, and so they should get a fair share of those taxes when they distribute it. And so those are my priorities.
Wow, that's amazing. Just listening to the type of decisions that you really have to sit down and figure out and work with groups of people to get things done. I know the work is hard. Is it hard, or is it something that you've over the 11 years gotten used to, or is it something that, you know, you have to gauge on a daily basis?
You know, it's the navigation that can be a little hard sometimes, navigating those waters, and, you know, and especially being in a legislature that is, you're in a super minority, you know, and you got all these white rural Republicans that are in there, and getting them to understand your truth. Holy shit, that's the part. And so, you know, the thing, there's this thing called white fragility. You know, when you start talking about things that are important to you, and they feel like, you know, they're being attacked by you speaking your truth, and you're not trying to attack anyone. You're just trying to get people to understand why your policy is oppressive, or how it hurts my people, or how, you know, is you know, what you're doing. I know you may think that you're doing some good, you know, for our people, but really you're harming our people. You know, we don't need you to, you know, come in and save the day. What we need is the resources to be able to save ourselves, because we pay into those resources. You know, and so, you know, that's some of, you know, what we deal with, and just getting, you know, for instance, one of the bills that was passed this last session was a bill that will punish people that are protesting.
That's
right?
crazy.
And it's unbelievable. And man, you talking about a big blow up, man. The whole house, Tennessee House, just, man, I thought we were gonna be strangling each other in there, because I'm trying to get them to understand, look, man, you trying to punish protesters, but you're not working on any legislation that addresses the reason why they're out there protesting. Who the fuck wants to be protesting?
Right.
Nobody want to have to do that shit, you know. So, you know, if someone is taking the time out of their life to march up and down these streets, they have to really, really be upset or have a reason why they're out there doing this. They could be with their children, you know, and you look at the issues, you know, on how, you know, poor people are affected. And, you know, I remember, for example, you know, in Tennessee House, they wanted to make the Bible the state book of Tennessee. Right. And to me, and I told them on the House floor, and you know, for all of you that are listening, make sure you follow at TN Rep Parkinson so you can see the video from some of this stuff.
Make sure you
know,
check
on YouTube.
Him out.
Yeah,
People.
right. Because, you know, I said, y'all, this reminds me of when it was the Pharisee or the Sadducee. They was in the temple praying loud so people could see them praying and hear them praying. And then they looking over at the poor little lady who was praying quietly and praying loud and saying, oh Lord, you know, all this shit. don't let me be like her. And,
That's
you know,
crazy.
because, you know, and so I'm like, look, you don't have to make the Bible the state book of Tennessee if you actually operate in the principles that's in the Bible.
Right.
Because you're the same person or the same people that voted against people having insurance, and we got the ability to provide it. So you're not even giving people an opportunity to live, but you want to hold this book up and say we're holier than thou. We made the Bible the state book of Tennessee. Man, we don't sit your asses down. and you know, and it's so hypocritical.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and in some cases, and the killer part is this is the craziest part of this whole thing. The craziest part is, you know, look, we're I think we are. What are we, 20? Are we even 27% in the state of Tennessee? We might be, I think we may be, or is it 12%? I forgot what the percentage of black folks are in Tennessee. So, but 75% of them black folks live in Shelby County and across the whole state. Think about what I'm saying. 75% of the black folks in the entire state of Tennessee live in Shelby County. So we're in this little blue island in the corner over here. And once you come out of here, you're in no man's land, right? And so you got, when they do pass these laws of not giving people insurance, this, that, and other, yes, it's affecting the black folks, but the majority of these folks that's being affected are white folks. But them same white folks without the insurance and the bad education and the meth problems and the opioid problems turn around and vote these same folks in office that are taking the food off their table and cutting their throats.
That's crazy.
But it goes to show you that race is more important than the future of your kids, because you still vote the same people in that's cutting your throat and taking the money off your table.
They continue to do that, and it does seem like we're making strides with getting fresh blood into some of these you know, political seats now, which is great, but a lot of the, you know, the same people that have been there for so long that haven't been progressive at all in their thoughts and their ideals are still in there. So, you know, I know we got a lot of work to do. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had your life threatened in this role?
I have. It's so funny. How did you know to even ask that?
Because
so
I could only imagine, because of the power that you have, I would think somebody probably might have been sitting outside your house with a shotgun, maybe.
Well, you know, I shoot back. That's probably the issue. I'm a Marine, baby. Look, hey, I'm a pro-gun Democrat, so I'm a little bit different. But it's so funny because you remember when they spray painted on the wall at Graceland?
Yeah.
Remember that? So I said it in press. You know, I'm a straight shooter. So the good thing I think about myself is you don't ever have to guess where I am. I'm always tell you where I am. I'm gonna shoot straight with you, regardless of where you are. I'm gonna shoot straight with you. And I appreciate people that shoot straight back. I don't care if you're racist. If you're racist, be the racist. But at least I ain't gotta wonder if you're the racist. You know, I can appreciate that. So they had spray painted BLM and all of this stuff on the wall at Graceland at Elvis's house. And I said they were all up in arms, right? Somebody painted on the wall, and I said. I'm like, wait a minute. People write graffiti on the wall at Graceland every day. It's always been graffiti on the wall. I said, so what are you really mad about? You can't be mad about graffiti on the wall because there's always graffiti. Or is it that you're really mad about what was the message that was painted on the wall? And so instead of them being honest about what they were mad about, they got mad at me, all of the Elvis folks, right? And it's so funny. So I'm like, they started, hitting me in my inbox and hit me on my email, calling my office.
You can't play with Elvis. Now, you cannot play. That's one thing I learned. You cannot play with Elvis Presley around here.
Man, Elvis was a hero to most.
Why?
But he never meant right. But anyway, so they started calling office, and some of them said, "Yeah, what if I come in spray paint at your house?" I was like, "Bring your ass."
I got something for you.
Yeah, you better look. They, you know, there was a lot of threats, and I was, you know, nigger this and nigger that, and you know, and all of this, you know, and I can handle it, you know. But what I don't like is when they make them threats to our Black female elected officials, and they do that. They made them threats to the Tammy Sawyers and to the William Mars and to the, you know, to the Black females. To me, you're a freaking coward.
Coward. Like,
you know,
that's
and I have
sad.
zero
I hate that.
toleration for cowards. You know, and so I'm, you know, no.
No, they didn't come see you, did they, Mr.
No, they didn't come see me.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, you know what? One of the things I do want to talk to you about, and we're kind of wrapping up at this point. You've shared so much, and I really appreciate it. Very transparent, and you a real person. Like, you know, some politicians, people are kind of scared to come up to them to even discuss what's on their mind, but you're not like that. And we appreciate everything that you do. And, you know, COVID is here. We're in a pandemic. You know, everyone is affected. We all know that, especially business owners. Now, you know, something recently that has happened, and it's kind of like, you know, affects the industry that I'm in. I can't go out and host events like I used to. We've kind of shifted to a virtual platform pretty much, you know, the things that we do in this business. You know, there was a recent all-Black affair. And some people may have thought that they probably wouldn't have had it this year because of COVID. The numbers are rising at such a substantial rate. And the party happened. And, you know, on social media, everyone's looking at all the, you know, visuals where people weren't wearing masks. Everybody was pretty much on top of each other, things of that nature. And they're giving, you know, Curtis a lot of slack right now. I watch the news daily. They still talking about it. What are your thoughts on, you know, the recent, they're calling it a COVID spreader, the all-Black affair, and Curtis' decision to actually have that party? And I guess, you know, people really have free will to go wherever they want to go. So what happened? Have you talked to Curtis? What's going on?
Right. And I did talk to Curtis. And you know, and you know, we had a good and spirited conversation. And so, and I respect him for that, you know. And you know, one of the things I told him, you know, first of all, I wanted to talk to him first because the news was calling me. And I didn't want to go on the news without having talked to him, not to let him know that I'm going on the news, but to hear, you know, what he has to say, you know, if he wanted to say anything to me before I talk, because I want to hear this just being prudent, you know, before you get out there and run off at the mouth about, you know, things. You know, I want to see, you want to hear from all sides. They come from, you know, being a legislator. You want to hear all sides of an issue. And so, you know, I expressed to him, you know, it was an uncut conversation. And, you know, with no politics. I don't play politics, and I try not to in any conversation. You know, I expressed to him, I said, you know, the timing. I said, it's the worst time, you know, because it can be a super spreader event. And I told him, somebody's going to get sick from the event. There's no doubt in my mind. That's what I told him. And you know, but he made some extremely valuable and valid points. One is, you know, he told me that he did a lot of stuff to, you know, to make it, you know, as safe as possible. You know, like he required a mask, and he had hand sanitizer, and he tried to space it out as much as possible. And, you know, he had the bubble or the tent and the club itself, and this 5,000 square foot patio space to make it as, you know, people can, you know, spread out as much as possible. He did express also that, you know, in the last 10 minutes of it, because he shut the DJ down inside the club, and this is where I'm understanding it, he shut the DJ down inside the club because they were supposed to be closed by 10, and he shut it down by 10. He said, but what he didn't anticipate was people from the inside of the club, once they shut the DJ down inside, going into the tent area, and it got a lot more lively for that last 10 minutes. And that's where you see a lot of the video from, right? And he said, you know, he said, I honestly didn't anticipate that, didn't plan for that, right? And but he made some other valid points, which I think are important. The fact that he said, when he told me that the members of the COVID task force were on site, you know, at
they were there.
They were there. They were on site at 8:30.
Oh, okay.
Or 9:30 or whatever time it was. I said, well, shit. There's nothing else really to talk about.
They were there.
They didn't shut it down, right? And the Memphis police officers were there on site.
Did they stay the entire time, or they just
the COVID folks came twice, before the event and during the event. Okay. And the Memphis Police Department, I think they were on site. I'm thinking they were on site the whole time. And so, you know, you had that, and then this, and this is why I'm saying these are some valid points. You got daily gatherings of large amounts of people happening every day. You look at FedEx, you look at, you know, these warehouses, you look at any of these logistics operations, you know, and all of these things. And granted, maybe they have things in place like you got to wear a mask, this, that, and other, you know, but there are, and then you factor in the just gatherings in the different houses. This was Thanksgiving, right? And so the gatherings of people in their houses and different things like that. And so he said, man, you can't solely place this on my shoulders alone. No, and I think he's absolutely right. Again, I go back to timing. I don't agree with the timing of what you were doing, right? But he still made valid points that, you know, because there are things that are happening all over, you know, Shelby County that are causing the bump also. And so, you know, I explained to him, I said, well, you know, your points are very, very, very valid, you know. And so my thing is, if the county or the COVID-19 task force or whoever's, you know, if they were present, then either they dropped the ball or they need to tighten up what those policies are going to be for gatherings in Shelby County. Now, I think that honestly, the mandates should have been coming from the Trump administration as to what this looks like and what this is going to be, so we can get through this. But they didn't. They failed. Our governor is working right out of the Trump playbook in regards to the state of Tennessee. So there's a failure there. And then I look at you know, what's happening locally. So this is where it is. No, the cavalry is not going to come to save us, Black people. Let me look at this camera. This is vitally important for you to exercise personal responsibility, because like Curtis Givens said, he made the venue available, but he did not hold a gun to anyone's head to be at that event. He didn't hold a gun to anyone's head to take their mask off. And so we have to exercise personal responsibility when it comes to taking care of our own. And you know, and I'm so, what, you know, this is the dilemma that I have as a legislator. We're always, in a lot of cases, we're asking people to come in and do it for us, when honestly, everything just about that is going on, and I'm talking about from the police shootings to COVID-19 survival to economic empowerment, is within our power to control. Let me give you an example. And this is what happens, and y'all don't run me off with rakes and pitchforks. Don't beat me up for what I'm about to say. Every time there's a police shooting, we go out in the streets and we protest and we get mad and we talk about it on Facebook, right? And on social media. And then they know, because we're the most studied, we're the most studied group of humans on God's earth. We've been under the microscope and in the petri dish more than anybody. So they know exactly what we're going to do before we do it. So their strategy is, let them march, let them burn. That shit is insured anyway. We're going to build it. We might build it back there. We might build it somewhere else because it's all insured. Let them march. But guess what? They're going to stop marching at some point, and they are then going to forget about Trayvon Martin, about Tamir Rice, about the George Floyd deal. How many posts have you seen about George Floyd from Black folks on social media in the last month?
No, that's over with.
Thank you. So they know that eventually we're going to go back to being Black folks, right? And killing each other, right? And so since they know that, the cycle will repeat again. And another black person will be shot and killed by an officer, probably before the year's out. Probably already has, right? And we're going to get back up and we're going to do this, repeat the same thing again. Now, I have no issue with people marching and protesting. It's great for awareness. Now, but the real issue is the follow through. Number one, I put out 5 points of what we should do. You want to stop police shootings? 5 points. Number one, have every 18 to 34-year-old black male go out and get their gun license, get their weapons, get their guns, and be a licensed carrier. Number one, you have the right to defend yourself. If you have the right to defend yourself. Number two, I'm not telling you to go out and shoot a police officer. I'm not telling you that. But I am a licensed carrier. I've been through the training, you know, and so I'm licensed to carry. I'm not going to let you just choke me out.
Right.
You know, so that shit ain't gonna happen. So we're gonna either talk about this cordially, or we're gonna do something else. But you ain't gonna choke me out. And now, number two is vote. Vote. Register your whole family to vote and vote. And look, if you are a convicted felon and you don't have the right to vote, then guess what your job is? Your job is to get grandma, daughter, son, nephew, the neighbors, pile them in the car and take their asses to vote. That's your job. You transportation. Right. They can vote in your interest for you. Right? Number three, and most important, direct your money. So, hey, every elected official, every politician, every person that holds a seat is backed by some money somewhere. Definitely. And so if you want to dry them up, this is how, look, this is the example. You know how they dried up, how they stopped the Vietnam War? Mm-hmm. Congress said, pull the plug on the money. You ain't got no money, you can't fund the war.
That's true.
You ain't got no money, you can't fund the policy. You can't get elected if you ain't got no money. And guess what? As soon as, for example, you know, Papa John's or Home Depot, they're big Trump supporters. If you really want to stop a Trump, then you drive his money. The best, if we ever, instead of protesting in the streets, protest this company, right? And guess what? If you do a public lynching of a company, guess what's going to happen? All the rest of the companies going to fall in place. You see, think about it. NFL, all of a sudden, Black Lives Matters.
All of a sudden. Just forget
right?
Everything that, what's his name?
Right, Jerry Jones and all these folks that said, you know, about kneeling. Now everybody kneel. Hey, we're all gonna kneel. Right now, really?
When that money affected, when you talk about that money, when you talk about pulling that money, it's over.
You know, let me say this. Let me say this last thing. America, man, and I hope everybody that's listening gets this. If you ain't got nothing else in this podcast, get this. I want you to think about all of the shifts that have ever happened in America. See, you can protest and yell BLM and you know this, that, and other, but you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to those folks that's in charge. They ain't understanding. You sound like they ain't understanding that shit.
Right.
But because they speak a different language. It's not even English. It's not Spanish. It's not Charlie Brown's teacher. They speak capitalism. That's the only language. Watch this. America shifted on this axis, and there was a new way of life in America 4 times in the history of America. The first time was when these rich folks started getting taxed from England. It was rich folks. It wasn't the poor folks getting taxed for tea and sugar. It was rich people. And the rich people duped the poor people into fighting their fight for them. And all these poor ass white folks started coming up there to support the rich folks, started dumping tea in the harbor. You couldn't even drink tea because your ass couldn't even afford it. They wasn't taxing you dumbass. They was taxing the rich folks. And the poor folks started fighting the fight. And guess what? Then they ended up fighting a Revolutionary War. Right. America shifted on this axis. It was about money, right? The second time it shifted, the South was killing it in exports and gross domestic product because they had free labor.
Free
labor called slavery. So they were killing it. They were exporting these crops and they had no overhead because they were just, you know,
right. We a straight commodity. We a straight commodity out here.
Right. And so the North was saying, man, these Southern folks gonna control the country because they getting all the money. And we need to industrialize because France is industrializing and England is industrializing and this, that, and other. And so there was a war over money called the Civil War. And life again shifted in America, right? That's the second shift. And then you had, man, these black folks that said, hey, let's stop spending money on these buses. Let's shut these economies down in these cities, because they won't let, which I disagree with, but they won't let us eat at their table or let us go to their school or let us live in their neighborhood, right? And they shut that money down. And that money for MATA and the money for, you know, these courts and this, that, and other, that goes to those cities' budgets. The cities were getting hurt. And all of a sudden, they signed this doggone Civil Rights Act, right? And America shifted again on its axis because it was talking about money, right? And then the last shift, well, there's two more shifts now. The second to last shift happened when they flew them doggone planes into them world banks.
Oh, yeah.
And life in America changed.
9/11.
The 9/11, they hit them world banks. And I'm telling you, speaking capitalism, right? Now we are in a shift again where America will never be the same. COVID. Because this pandemic has hurt the American economy, which in turn hurts the global economy. And America will never, ever, ever be the same again. But they were speaking capitalism, not English, not protesting in the streets, not yelling BLM. I have no issue now, so all you BLM folks, shut up, because I support, I support the protest. But I'm telling you, there has to be more than just the protest, because we need to direct our money. $3 trillion in spending power, or is it 12 trillion in spending power just in the Black community alone. So you can't tell me we don't have the ability to change our outcomes. It's not them, it's us. We have to be our own saviors and get out of the habit of asking people to save the day for us.
What is it going to take, Mr. Parkinson, to like even change a mindset? Like, what is it going to take?
Strong leadership, courageous leadership, and people being willing to trust their fellow African American.
It must be a hard thing to do for
us.
us.
That's a hard thing to do. That part, the trust part.
It must be in our DNA not to trust too much.
Right, because think about it. You know, for years you have been taught to not trust, even through the slavery period. We're still dealing with holdovers.
That's true.
I mean, mental holdovers. One of the things that my mentor taught me, he said, man, if you're ever dealing with Black folks, put your best deal on the table. And they will talk their ways into they will talk themselves into a worse deal that you put on the table because they don't trust you. That's sad, but it's absolutely 100% true.
It is. It is. It is. Even with my dealings with business, it's amazing. Right. The things that I have to go through, even as a woman, a Black woman, double minority, and it's sad. And it's sad, but you're right. Strong leadership, and you are definitely one of those strong leaders. And this is my last question to you. We just came off of a new presidency, political race, right? We got Joe Biden and Masora Kamala Harris. How does this affect what you do with the new leadership that's coming up in 2021 with the presidency? How does that affect what you do?
When President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris won these seats, you could hear a collective sigh of relief from half the country anyway. Our country has been we've gone through a trauma. Honestly, think about that. Our country has gone through a traumatic experience for the last 4 years.
Oh my!
We've never seen anything like this. So you not only are you dealing with the trauma of the pandemic, not only are you dealing with the trauma of your financial situation. How am I going to feed my kids? There are tons of evictions that are coming up in a month. Tons. I mean, a bunch of them. And so you're dealing with those traumas, right? And then you got this fool in the White House who every single day for 4 years has been continuing trauma. Nothing good, nothing good came from him. And every day you look on the news and it's something negative coming from him. And so we've been traumatized. And when you say, when you go through a trauma, you literally have to heal from the inside, because it creates honestly the same symptoms that military people go through in regards to PTSD. You know, so America is honestly dealing with, you know, PTSD, and you know, and yeah, and you know, and along those lines. So that's America. But now let's talk about the Black community, right? I'm gonna give you an example. You know, I'm military, so they trained me to kill people. They trained me to go to war. At the age of 17, I turned 18, Marine Corps boot camp. They were training me to go to war and to kill people, right? Or to be in a war zone with bullets flying over your head, and you know the possibility you may be killed any day, right? They trained me for that, and so I want you to think about, if I was trained and I go to war and I come back with PTSD, and I was trained as an adult to do it, imagine what's happening with that 4-year-old Black child that's growing up in a neighborhood that's a war zone, but he's growing up in it from a baby to the age of, you know, 15, right? Imagine what kind of trauma or stress that he's dealing with that has not been intervened or assessed or dealt with. Now I want you to think about this, and I want to leave our folks with this too. If I'm trained and I come back with PTSD as a military person from being in a war zone for 1 year, right? That baby, and think about this. I don't know one baby that come into this world that said, I want to grow up to be a killer, right? But that baby grows up in this environment, war in the house, war in the neighborhood, you know, this, that, and other, right? And they absorb all of this stuff for this many years. It's a wonder let me use me as an example. I didn't come into this world wanting to kill some kids at the age of 14 and go to jail.
Right.
But over the years of seeing it and absorbing it and seeing violence in the household, or seeing violence in the streets, or seeing how people dealt with bullets, seeing folks get killed, you know, that became the new norm from what I was when I came into the earth. When I came to the earth, I was somebody hugging my mama's leg, right? But then at the age of 14, I was this person that had a loaded gun in the classroom, and after school, it was going down. First person to raise their hand, they was gonna get shot and killed. I was gonna kill some kids. I was literally, that was what my mind was telling me to do.
Thank God you didn't. Thank God.
Right. Thank God. Look, thank God there was a guy that snitched on me. And it's so funny. He told it, right? And I don't think I seen him after that. When they took me to jail, I don't think I ever seen him again, right? He was one guy I thought, you know, all of us were, we hard out here, right? But you realize that there ain't nobody hard. When I went down to that office and they had their gun, and all the dudes, they were way bigger than me. All these dudes that was threatening me, and they all in there crying like some little females, right? I'm like, this is what I ain't have to bring no gun for y'all some, right? But thank God for the dude that told it, right? Because I caught up with him on Facebook, right? And his ass didn't even remember the incident at all. It just goes to show you, it's so funny, it just goes to show you that, you know, where, you know, something that was so important in your life, you know, it was just a minute purpose for them to tell it, right? And you know, and it changed everybody's life, you know, so wow. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Mr. Parkinson, I have thoroughly enjoyed you today on episode 146 of the Verbally Effective Podcast. You keep fighting that good fight you're doing. You know, I know it's a hard job, but you seem very passionate about it. You seem to have your ear to the community. You know what is needed in our society, in our state, you know. So I just pray that you continue to make the right decisions, circle yourself with people that are going to help you get to your goals. And, you know, I just wish you the best, Mr. Parkinson, and thank you so much for sharing your journey today. We have learned so much about you. We got some good stories too, like you broke it down. And I want you right now to let everyone know how they can get in touch with their state Tennessee representative and see everything that you do on social media. How can people keep in touch with you?
Yeah. Follow us on social media at TN Rep Parkinson, at TN Rep Parkinson. Follow us on Facebook, State Rep with the period, Antonio Parkinson. Like the page. You know, we're probably the most accessible elected official around here. So
I believe
you know, yeah, we get inboxes and calls from everybody. You know, even other people's in other people's districts. But you know, we love our people. We love our people, and you know, we want to see our people win. And when I say our people, I'm talking about those that feel like they don't have a voice. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. I represent Nutbush. You know, it's poor white folks in there, and poor black folks, and poor Hispanics. You know, and I represent Raleigh, and you know, we got a little bit more middle class space, and I represent Douglas, Hyde Park, and all these areas. So you know, it's my people. My people are my people. Those are the people that feel like they've been forgotten, because I felt I was there one time, you know, and still there in a lot of cases, you know, and so that's where my heart is, you know, and that's where my heart will continue to be.
Well, you continue to stay safe as well, because, you know, the work that you do, the influence that you have, I want you to stay safe. But I know you got it covered. You got it covered.
Thanks for having me too. I really appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm sure we'll be working more in the future together. But I have thoroughly enjoyed you, Mr. Parkinson. And, you know, you be safe out here in this pandemic and continue to do the good work, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.